Okay, let's continue with our book, Howliday Inn. At that moment, Jill came through the gate marked Chateau Bow Wow. She tripped on a tree stump as she moved toward us. Chester dropped his head sadly. I heard him sigh. I assumed in resignation to his fate. Okay, their bungalows are all ready, she said as she approached. She took Chester from Toby and carried him off. He didn't even resist as they disappeared into the world beyond the gate. Bungalows are what we call cages here at Chateau Bow Wow, Dr. Greenbrier was saying to the Monroes. We think it has more class. Oh, yes, Mrs. Monroe answered. Class, yes. She and Mr. Monroe exchanged a look. Well, we should be going, Mr. Monroe said then. Come on, boys. Let's leave Harold to his new home. Suddenly, Toby threw himself around my neck. Goodbye, Harold, he cried. I'm going to miss you. Be a good dog, okay? And I felt a tear come to my eye. Pete snickered. Yeah, Harold, he said sarcastically. Try not to stink up the joint. I felt a bite coming to my teeth. Bye, Harold, Mr. Monroe said, leaning down to pat me on the head. Remember, he added in a whisper, it's good for the soul. Harold, Mrs. Monroe said firmly, be of good cheer and keep your eye on Chester, will you? Try to keep him out of trouble. Mrs. Monroe often left me with instructions, but rarely so impossible a task as this. Still, I vowed inside myself to do my best. Here's a picture I'm going to show you. Not many pictures in this book, but once in a while there's one. Toby was holding me tightly. His tears flowed freely now. I don't want to leave Harold, Mom, he was saying between sniffs and a lumped form in my throat. Gently, Mrs. Monroe separated Toby from my neck. As she led him by the hand to the car, Harrison took me by the collar to the waiting gate. Just as I was about to enter, I looked back at Toby, who was waving to me very sadly. A tear at last escaped my eye, and I turned to step through the gate. Harrison pulled the door shut, and Chester's words popped into my head. Abandon all hope, he had said, ye who enter here. Once inside the gate, I got my first real look at my new home. As Mr. Monroe had called it, Chateau Bow Wow consisted of 9 bungalows. Whatever they were called, they looked like cages to me. These stood on 3 sides of a big grassy play area, which Harrison referred to as the compound. The 4th side of the compound was the back wall of a house. A door in this wall led directly into Dr. Greenbrier's office. This door and the main gate seemed to be the only ways to get in or out of the place. A high wooden fence stood behind all the bungalows. It was impossible to see over it, and the only relief from the drabness within was the presence of a few trees here and there. Oh well, I thought, I had been right about one thing. The Waldorf Astoria, it was not. Harrison led me to the first bungalow we came to after entering the compound. I was relieved to see that Chester was being housed next door. After Harrison left me, I whispered to Chester through the wall. What's it like where you are? I asked. Oh, this isn't so bad. I've got a nice carpet on the floor and a couple of rubber bones for chewing. It's not home, but at least they've tried to give it a personal touch. Oh, really? Chester snapped back. Like what? Aside from a disgusting-looking lump of cloth hanging from a string in here, there isn't much in the way of interior decoration." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Chester." "It looks as if it's been hanging here since they built the place," he went on. "Probably supposed to be some sort of cat plaything. To tell you the truth, it looks like a mouse with a serious medical condition." "I'm sorry," I said again. "Probably got that way from eating the food here," he muttered. "Oh, this is nice," I said, noticing my food dish for the first time. "It says Doggy's Din Din on the side. Does your dinner bowl say anything?" There was a long silence from the other side of the wall. "Chester? Chester?" "I hear you, Harold. Does your food dish say anything?" "Yes, Harold, it says, Tuna tonight, Kitty's delight." "Oh, that's cute, Chester. Don't you think so?" "I may throw up." "Pardon?" "Never mind, Harold." After a pause, Chester spoke again. "Harold." "Yes, Chester." "This place is a loony bin, Harold. Any place that has a dead mouse hanging on a string as guests' room decor is a loony bin." "Oh, Chester, I think you're exaggerating," I started to say, but I was cut off by a sudden burst of barking from the two dogs in the bungalows directly across from ours. Straight ahead of me was a bulldog in a white turtleneck sweater. Next to him was a French poodle. They seemed to be in the middle of an argument, and it was the poodle who spoke first. "Oh, yes, yes," she was saying. "Over and over you say the same thing. But don't think I am so easily fooled, Monsieur Max. You cannot pull the, how you say, wool over my eyes so easily." "Louise, lower your voice," the bulldog replied. "Everyone can hear you." "Let them. I do not care. Why should I? After what you've done to me? Humph." Even at a distance, I could see that Max was embarrassed. He tried to pull his head further back into the turtleneck sweater, which already threatened to engulf him. He kept pacing back and forth as they spoke. "So," Louise pressed on, "what do you have to say for yourself, Fancy Pants?" "I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. That's what I have to say," Max responded. "You're making a little hello into—" "A little hello?" Louise shot back. "This kind of little hello, as you call it, I will make into a big one. That's what I will do with this little hello." "Louise," a soft, breathy voice interjected. I strained my head to see where it was coming from. The speaker was in a bungalow off to my right, but I couldn't see inside. "Oh, no!" Louise exploded. "This is too— oh, what is that word? Oh, yes, much. Now she wants to speak." "Now, Louise," Max said, his anger building. "She has just as much right to speak as you do." "Yes, yes, defend her. Why don't you?" "Louise, I don't need defending," said the feathery voice. I noticed the speaker had a slight southern accent. "I've done nothing wrong." "Max is mine. Do you hear me, Scarlet?" Louise fairly ranted across the empty space. "Georgette," the voice responded gently. "What?" Louise shrieked. "My name is Georgette." Georgette repeated. Scarlet! Georgette is all the same to me. You may want him, but he's mine. Do you hear? Mine! Louise, Max bellowed in a full, rich voice. Enough! I've had enough of your wild accusations. Now let it be. There was a sound of a crash, and Louise vanished into the back of her bungalow. Max looked sullenly out into the distance. Oh, dear, Chester said drearily next door. I do believe Louise has thrown her din-din dish against the wall. And then he let out a screech. What is it, Chester? I cried. What's wrong? Something landed on my door. I don't know what. You've got to help me. A new voice hissed eerily. There was a sound of wire rattling. I can't take it anymore. Chester, is that you? Is this some kind of a joke? Suddenly, a head appeared upside down over the edge of my bungalow. I jumped and hit my own head on the ceiling. That must have jarred my visitor, for he flopped to the ground before my door. You're new here, aren't you, Buster? He snarled. Oh, yes, I am, I replied, trying to size up the vision before me. He was a cat, that much was clear, but a cat unlike I'd ever seen. He looked like a walking, talking patchwork quilt. He glanced over his shoulder before he spoke again, and then it was a low, intense whisper. Tuesday, he uttered. Over the wall. Don't tell the others. Just you and me. Just you and me, I repeated. I don't have a clue as to what he was talking about. Shh, he said quickly. Not so loud. We'll get out of here, pal. Don't worry about it.